This is what's become of East Hollywood. You know, when I made my film on Bukowski, it was probably 1970, 71. And, you know, East Hollywood was pretty funky at the time. It was his place. But this is Delampre Street. This is where he lived. You can look across here, look across the street over there. There's an old court that's still pretty nice shape. You know, I think what a lot of things have done is that they've torn things down and progress. California never has tradition, there's always progress. Now you've got the, look up here, you've got the Hollywood Riviera. Whatever was here before, I don't know. But right here, right in here, is Bukowski's court. When I first met him, this is where he lived. And he lived right here in this first part of the court. You know, it's funny that in Hollywood, this is a working class court still. This really represents what East Hollywood was all about, and it's still here. The important thing about this part of his life is that he was a mail carrier, and he was actually in the Oakwood station, which is a little further down here, but this could have been his area. I took him out and walked him through these neighborhoods. Also took him over even further east into Hollywood, over in the kind of Silver Lake area, and he walked through. But he talked about the fact that his whole ethos, and the reason that I love Post Office so much, you know, come here and look down here. You know, here's this mailman coming in, and he'll go into a place like this, you know. Every one of those doors, he's just delivering mail, and the crazy people that would come out and confront him as a mail carrier, you know, because he was, quote, the representative of the government. Bukowski, if you could imagine being the representative of the government, how would you like that as a representative of your government? But he'd be there, and their paychecks, their Social Security, their bills, they blame him, the dogs that would come running out, and that process of madness that he was, you know, walking around delivering mail with a hangover, having been to the track, thinking about figuring his horses, and then being confronted by, you know, here, come on up here. This, you know, the thing that I think is interesting about this is Bukowski's world. I mean, East Hollywood and the whole process of what inspired him. I mean, he's an Angelino. He's from Los Angeles. He understood. He said, I've got the stink of LA in my bones. You know, it was one adventure after another. I mean, actually, nightmare after another. You know, him coming into a court, coming into a place like this, you know. He's got to see where it says, walk this, beware of dog. You know, every time a postman sees that, and Bukowski would talk about it, this whole thing about, can he get the thing up, if he's got something they've got to sign for, can he get to the door and get back before the dog gets him, you know? And sometimes he won and sometimes he lost. He hated dogs, as most postmen do. You know, a couple of times he talks about those moments of a dog, you know, getting right up in his crotch and realizing with one bite he could lose his manhood. And at the same time, you know, the idea of delivering letters and some woman sitting inside with her wrapper undone, kind of inviting him in. And of course, you know, the temptation is there, but you don't take it if you want to keep your job. You know, he had a good, strong, cynical sense of life, and again, his philosophy of the working class is, I think, fed by not only those jobs he had, but just walking around these streets. I mean, you know, you think about a postman, and none of us really understand who lives in these places. You know, you walk by, you think about it, but he's confronting everyday humanity. And I think, again, why would he choose being a postman? There's other jobs. He had a million jobs he could have done. Why did he choose? I think he chose it because he gave him a chance to fatten up that experience. You know, after he decided he wasn't going to go out and have these menial jobs, shipping clerk, stevedore, all these different things, he ended up by choosing the post office. And I think in a way it helped him. Again, what's his first novel? Post Office. He was writing about what he knew about. And at the same time, it was that unique view, that desperation of the LA working class. He really did understand the city, and the important thing to understand about Bukowski, he's a poet, he's a great poet, he writes about life, but he understood the personality of this town. And this was his canvas, this was his milieu. These places here is where where he walked these streets as a postman. He understood it better than anybody else. This is Bukowski. I mean, East Hollywood, Los Angeles. Under this tree right here, and that tree right there, I definitely remember. I mean, you know, Bukowski is the hope that any guy, any man or woman has of being alone and believing in yourself, and having people tell you, like I said before, his rejections were, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to be in the Atlantic. You're not good enough to be in this thing. And he didn't take that, he took it as a message. Go out and get good enough. And I think any artist, that's what it's all about. I mean, I'm working on a thing on Ray Charles right now. You know, Ray Charles, when he was young and thought he was a real hotshot, played for Lucky Millinder. And Lucky Millinder listened to him, and he thought he was going to go on the road. He thought, because he was in northern Florida, he was the hottest thing there. And Lucky Millinder said, "You're not good enough, kid." And at that moment, Ray Charles, instead of quitting, you know, went out and got good enough. And that's what Bukowski did. And I think that, you know, anybody like that, indigenous artists, Bukowski, Ray Charles, they come from nothing. They have a talent, and the only thing that's driven them is themselves. You know, Ray Charles didn't have anybody pushing him to be a musician. And Bukowski certainly didn't have his parents pushing him to be a writer. They basically grew out of their own ambition and their own desire to express themselves. And, you know, when you look at that place, you know, it ain't the Taj Mahal, but, you know, it was a place that he found that was his own oasis. You know, I don't think there's many LA artists that match up to Charles Bukowski in the sense of really capturing this city and the unique, crazy nature of it.